Probando, probando, probando. Boop, 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 boop. I feel like a news reporter with this. This is actually a video I've been wanting to do for a while now, and I just kept putting it off because I thought, oh, I'm just about to get another fountain pen next week or whenever. So I kept waiting for, okay, after the next pen, then I'll do it. And then I keep getting more pens. Then I finally decided, you know what? I need to do it at some point. I can always do updates every year or something like that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But this is my fountain pen collection as of May. We're in May. As of May 2019. So I first started getting into fountain pens through calligraphy, actually. I used to use dip pens. I still use them, of course. And I realized I wanted an alternative for when I am not in a specific place in my house or something, when I am on the go or traveling especially. I wanted to be able to do calligraphy without the hassle of an ink and nib and having to dip and having to deal with the mess. Not that it's messy, but it's just a bit more of a hassle, especially traveling with a whole bottle of ink. It can be a little inconvenient. So I decided that I would try an alternative. First of all, I want to share with you guys a bit of how I store them. There is no science around this. Honestly, I'm a little disorganized with my fountain pens, so I actually don't recommend you use my storing solutions. I will at some point figure out my storing of fountain pens and make another video about it probably. But for now, the main place where I keep my fountain pens is in this Giro fountain pen case. You can fit 12 in here. It opens with a zipper. Usually the way I organize them is on the left side, I keep the ones that I'm currently using, the ones that are inked. And then on the right side, I keep ones that are empty and cleaned and ready to be re-inked. And then aside from that, because that doesn't fit all of them, I have this little tray that I got used. This I keep on my desk drawer, and this is where I keep the ones that need cleaning. So that way, whenever I open my desk drawer for other things, I remember, oh yeah, I need to clean those pens and stop procrastinating. And then finally, I, of course, have my traveler's notebook always with me with 2 pens at all times. I like to keep one with a normal nib for writing and then one with a calligraphy nib because you never know when you need to do calligraphy, and I do it every day. So with the purpose of calligraphy, the first pen I ever got was this manuscript pen that came in a set with 4 different nib sizes. I pretty much always leave the same one. I have the 4B always there. I only had this for the longest time, actually. I can't remember exactly when I got it. I just put 2017 in my spreadsheet. Yes, I did a spreadsheet. I can't remember exactly when I got this. It was probably like 2016 or so, I want to say. And this is all I used. Like basically, I had a problem. I wanted to find a solution. I found the solution. That was it. And I use this, I still use this actually, not as often as I used to, but I still use it, I still love it. And then one day I was walking around the art store, as we all do, and I found the Pilot Varsity pens, which at this point I still had not really been exposed to the fountain pen community or fountain pens in general. This is all I had, and I didn't even see it as a fountain pen. I just saw it as a portable calligraphy pen or something. So I found the Pilot Varsity, which if you're familiar with it, it already comes pre-inked, so you don't really need to do anything. So I didn't even know what I was buying. Once again, I didn't know anything. I just got it because it looked cool. That's it. And I didn't love it, honestly. This is not what got me into fountain pens. I was just like, it writes well, but I didn't think it was anything special. And I still don't actually. It's special because it's cheap. It's a really good, cheap solution to getting a fountain pen, but honestly, there are better fountain pens, which we'll get into, just as cheap, that I think are a much better experience than the Varsity. It's been years. It still has ink in there because I barely use it. So moving on to the pen that actually got me into fountain pens, and the way that I transitioned from thinking about pens as a calligraphy solution to as my main way of writing was through inks, actually, because once again I already used inks with dip pens, and I started learning that my manuscript pen couldn't use the same inks as the dip pens did. Yes, I clogged it. I already made that mistake. Don't use your dip pen inks in your fountain pens. Just, if you take anything from this video, take that. It takes a while to get that clean. Anyway, so I got into fountain pen inks in order to use them with my manuscript, and I started watching videos and looking for which one to get. And I remember I stumbled upon a Brian Goulet video on shimmering inks, and I fell in love with Emerald of Chivor, and I was like, I need that. Speaking of, I do have a review on that ink. That was the first ink I reviewed, and I do talk more about how I got into inks in that video, so if you want to check that out, I'll put it in the cards. Stumbling upon Brian Goulet's videos was when I realized, oh, I already have a fountain pen. I just need more now. I need to try out for normal writing. And that is when I got this little Campo Marzio pen, which is an Italian brand. It is originally from Rome, but at the moment, they already closed down, unfortunately, but they had a boutique in San Juan in Puerto Rico, and I just so happened to be there for Christmas, and I walked around, and I just realized, oh, there's a fountain pen store here, just as I was starting to get into them, and I just went ahead and got this little pocket pen, which I still use. I love this pen. I got it in a medium nib. I very quickly realized that this was my preferred nib size. I did experiment with other nib sizes. You'll see I have like one of each at least just to try it out. I immediately fell in love with fountain pens after using this, and I was like, that's it. I'm switching any other form of writing for fountain pens, and that's how it is right now. So I got my next fountain pen basically like 2 weeks later. I went on the Goulet website and I found the Gin House, which also have a similar cigar shape as this little one, just in a bigger version. And I got this matte black Gin House, again with a medium nib, which I actually didn't end up liking, and switched it out for an extra fine Goulet nib to try it out. And that was it. That's how it started. And from there, I just kept buying a bunch of pens. So because I wanted to experiment more with pens, I wanted another cheap pen that I could play around with and switch the nib and switch the cartridges and the ink and play with converters and play with refilling ink cartridges. I immediately just got really into customizing and playing around with pens. I remember I got some Noodler's Flex nibs just to try it out in the Gin House. So I got another cheap Gin House. This one was from Amazon. It doesn't have a nib because I'm not really using it anymore. I still like my original Gin House from Goulet better. And for the next few months, I was just really happy playing around, mostly with these two pens, the Gin House and Campo Marzio, aside of course from the manuscript. But March 2018 was when my fountain pen acquisition period started, and I just couldn't stop. So I wanted to get a bunch of fountain pens, but my budget was still low, so my next pen was actually the Platinum Preppy with an extra fine nib. This is when I really started experimenting with varying nib sizes, and I wanted to try out what's the finest I can get, and you have definitely seen the Platinum Preppy in many of my videos because I use it constantly. That is my go-to fountain pen when it comes to drawing. Especially, I just really love how fine it is and how precise it can be when drawing. So even though it is the cheapest and one of the first pens I ever got, it is one of the absolutely most used ones. I love it. At this point, I was already researching more about different fountain pen companies and brands and everything, and I got into Lamy, and I really wanted that dark lilac, and I got really lucky and found someone who was selling a practically new Lamy dark lilac, even though it was past its release. It was already sold out everywhere, and it automatically became my new favorite pen. Basically, again, I still use it every day. And then as far as Lamys go, I also have the Lamy Petrol, which is also a safari, also a limited edition. I apologize for those of you who would want to get it watching this. I actually found this one while I was in Bogota because one of the retailers there that supplies Lamy still had some left, and I was again shocked that I was able to get it so easily. So I immediately got that one. I started playing around with the nibs. That's one thing I love about Lamy, is switching the nibs. I always keep one with a calligraphy nib, as you guys also probably already know because I always use it in my bullet journal videos. And then the third Lamy that I have, which I actually got this year, was the Lamy Studio Terracotta. This was my attempt to step up on the Lamy game and try out a fancier one, and I just loved this color. Honestly, I mostly got it for the color because this is just perfect color. Honestly, I love how this pen writes. It's perfect for work because it's a snap cap. I find it a bit inconvenient to use screw caps at work because it just takes you longer to unscrew them and then you end up just getting lazy and not writing anything. I do use this one a lot for work, but it does have a very sleek metal grip, which I find a little uncomfortable when it comes to long-term writing. And then speaking of slick grips, which I am now going a bit all over the place now in terms of the order that I had going on, but I don't think it matters very much what order I got them on. If it matters to you, I will list every pen that I mention right now in the description box in order of when I got them, but I'm just gonna talk about them from now on in the video. So the other one with a sleek grip, but I do love the pen, is the Faber-Castell Loom. I have it in the gunmetal black. This might be one of my absolute favorite nibs, actually. I got it in a fine? Yes, in a fine, because again, snap cap, I figured I can use it for work, which involves cheaper papers, so I might as well get a fine instead of a medium. And I love the look of it. This is the kind of industrial look I like. So I absolutely love the nib that this pen has. It definitely makes me want more Faber-Castell pens, but the grip, man, I just can't stand it for long-term writing, but I use it almost every day at work, which is good. I just need another Faber-Castell with a better grip. Moving on to Conklin, which is another brand that I really love and I want to get more of. I don't like their nibs, but I do love the look of their pens. I think they are absolutely stunning, classic looking pens, and switching the nib is a very easy thing. I actually love switching nibs. It makes me feel like I'm customizing the pen to perfection, so I don't mind having to switch them at all. The first one I got, which I also got used, was the Purple Knights. And this one at the moment has a broad nib, but this one is possibly the pen that I have switched the nib on the most, because I have put Jinhao nib in it, I put the Conklin nib in it, I have put 3 different Goulet nibs in it. I just love playing around with this pen, and I, again, love the color, love the look of it, and I still use it all the time, even though this was another one of my first pens. I actually got that at the same time as the Dark Lilac, which I did a video on that. I just remembered a very bad quality old video. So I'll put that in the cards in case you want to check that out. Then I have 2 more Conklins. The next one that I got was the Endura in mahogany. Just fell in love with the look of it right away. I have it on a medium nib, and these ones were Goulet exclusive, so they already came with a Goulet nib, which was very convenient and saved me $15. I do highly, highly recommend this pen. This is possibly one of my top 5 pens. Don't ask me what my top 5 pens are. I haven't thought this through. Maybe I'll do that at some point, but I don't know. This has to be one of them. I love, love, love the look. I love the color, and it's just so smooth. I apologize for all the running around from the cats. You know, cats, they gotta be cats. And then finally, for the last Conklin, I have the Omniflex in Sunstone. I remember they also did that rose gold Omniflex, but I didn't really fall in love with that color or anything. But when I saw this and it had, again, that vintagey old classic looking feel, I had to. And I'm not very much of a flex person, actually. Including dip pens and fountain pens, I just prefer the stubs because I like my medieval calligraphy. But I like playing around with it. It's fun. If I ever want to switch it out, I'll switch it out for another Goulet nib. But for now, it's fun to play around with this flex nib. Now that we're basically going by brand, moving on to the next brand, I already showed you my Platinum Preppy, so I'm going to show you some more Platinums that I have. One of them is the Procyon. I got it in a medium, of course, and it's okay, you know. I enjoyed it. It's a step up from the Preppy, of course, but actually, you know what? I use the Preppy more often. This one, it's nice. It looks very cool. I like the look of it, but it's not one of the most used ones. However, the one that is the most used, which this was basically my grail pen since I first got that Campo Marzio, that mini one. I always wanted the Platinum Sun Tree 3776, and it finally happened for my birthday. I love it. This was my first gold nib, which does change the writing experience. It's just so smooth, so wonderful. I got it in a medium nib, of course, and it's a joy to write with. It has just the right amount of feedback so that it feels like you're actually writing with a piece of instrument, that made zero sense. It is the perfect dark red color. I just fell in love with it immediately and I still use it constantly. It is my favorite. Actually, usually when I do pen pal letters or when I'm just journaling at home, that's the one. That's my go-to pen. And then the other platinum I have is the Platinum Placer or Placer. I still don't know how to pronounce that. That's basically my default work pen. I find that it's the perfect pen to keep at work because it's a snap cap. I usually use the platinum cartridges in it and I just refill them, so that holds a decent amount of ink. And it's a smooth writing pen. Again, I actually like the Placer better than the Procyon. Jumping back to Campo Marzio, because I forgot when I was talking about the Minny, I also have this limited edition, also a small one, pocket pen Campo Marzio, which I actually got in their store in Rome. Of course, when I was in Italy, I just had to get an Italian pen, and what better brand to get than the one that got me into fountain pens in the first place. Campo Marzio will always have that special place in my heart. So I went in and they had this limited edition one, and I was into pink pens at the moment. That was around the same time that I got the Platinum Placer. I actually, to be honest, I don't use this one as often because it doesn't post very well, so it just feels very short. It does post, but then it's one of those post things that just falls off. And then moving on to another one that also has to do with the ones that I already mentioned. I have already talked about this pen in my Sunday Scriptorium series, with the first episode where I talk about materials, but for those of you who live in Europe or in, I think there's a Tiger store now in New York, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Flying Tiger or Tiger stores, they have their own set of calligraphy nibbed fountain pens. I already talked about this one. I think it's very much a copy of the Campo Marzio, but not as good. It is good, but their edges are a bit more rounded off, so I do prefer the manuscript because it's just more precise, but this one is a little wetter writer, so it depends what you prefer and what you prioritize. And then I already mentioned a couple gin house from when I started, and then I just sort of forgot about gin house for a while when I started experimenting with other brands until, of course, the Mother of Dragons appeared. Not the Mother of Dragons, just the dragon pen, but I had to say that. When they came out, well, they didn't come out when Goulet came out and started releasing the Jinhao 999 Dragon Pen. I got that immediately. The day it came out, I actually set up the email notification for this one because the fantasy lover in me just had to immediately. It's just so gorgeous. It's heavy. I love the weight. It makes me feel like I'm writing with a weapon. It's just so satisfying. I actually put a Goulet stub nib in here. It just makes me feel very badass using this. And then continuing with another pen that I love using for calligraphy is my Kaweco Sport, in which I have a 2.3 nib on it. I actually originally got it with an extra fine nib because I figured, same mentality as the Platinum Preppy, I thought, oh perfect, it's a pocket pen, so I will get an extra fine because that way it doesn't matter if I'm using cheap paper, I can use it without a problem. But honestly, I thought it was the scratchiest nib I've ever used, or one of the scratchiest. I really didn't like the extra fine. I do want to try another pen in a fine, another Kaweco, to see if that's better, and a medium, but I do love their calligraphy nib. Again, I talk more about this in the Sunday Scriptorium video, so I won't go too in depth about this one, but I use it all the time, mostly for calligraphy. Then which one have I not talked about? Ooh, the online, yes. Actually, this one's a funny story because these online pens, I actually thought they were really ugly when they came out. This is a very honest review? Is this a review? Just thoughts about my pens. I thought the online pens were really ugly, so I wasn't gonna get any. And you guys know, you may know how Goulet does giveaways here and there, and there was this giveaway that they did where there were 4 different items that you would win. If it had been just this item, I wouldn't have entered because I didn't like it, but there were 4 different items in that giveaway. I was really interested in the other 3, and you know, it never hurts to try a new pen. So I actually won that giveaway, which was crazy because I never win anything. I think actually that's pretty much the only giveaway I've ever won. So I tried it out, even though I never would have bought it if it wasn't for that. And the nib is just the nicest, smoothest thing. Not the smoothest, but really nice. I actually really recommend these pens if you enjoy the way they look or enjoy it enough. It's a great work pen because it's a snap cap and it's just such a smooth nib. I was very surprised. It was an unexpected success in that aspect. I use it way more than pens that I wanted in the first place and then ended up a little disappointed by. And another pleasant surprise actually was the Nemosine Singularity. Just because it's so cheap, I didn't expect it to be so good. This does have the problem of sometimes when you unscrew the cap, the barrel unscrews. So in theory, these can apparently be used as eyedropper pens, but I don't use it that way because I just don't want to risk it. It's just gonna get ink all over me. I just use it with the converter. But it's just, again, such a smooth writing pen, especially for the 10 bucks that it costed. I have it on a medium nib. It's just a solid, everyday carry fountain pen. Then we only have a few left. Moving on to one that is a little different. I have it here on my list for pens to clean. Is the Peniter Avatar in Cold Gray. This was another one that I was not originally going to get, but then I remember when it was around Black Friday this last year on 2018 that they cut down the price for these drastically, and I was like, I think I have to I have to try it because I just loved the pattern on it. It just looks like velvet almost. It looks like it has a texture even though it doesn't. It does have a magnetic cap, which is just fun, and I use this one a lot for work also because of the cap. I got it in a medium nib and it's very smooth, very good. I actually don't think I would pay the original price that these pens used to be. It was like close to $300 or something like that, but I did pay 100 and something. It also has this spring clip, which is a lot of fun. I do find myself playing around with this a lot at work. I probably annoy some people, but it's just so satisfying. That's the word. It's a very satisfying pen to use. Reliable, also really good for long-term writing, mostly because of that step on the grip. It just makes it extremely comfortable to write as many letters as you need to write. And then to finish this off, I will show you two weird pens just because they're vintage and rare. One of them is the Sheaffer Lady Sheaffer. I do need to repeat that. Brand is Sheaffer, the model is Lady Sheaffer. I don't know why they did that, I could have just called it Lady, but it's apparently in the 60s when Sheaffer decided to come out with a line of fountain pens to have women as their target market. So it's a clipless pen. I don't think it's the smoothest of pens. I do believe my pen is a little bent in terms of the nib. It still writes, it's fine. But honestly, nothing special in terms of how it writes. I just really loved how it looks. It almost looks like Art Deco style, even though it came a bit after the Art Deco prime. But I love how the pen looks. Not a huge fan of how it writes. Hopefully I can at some point meet a nib master or someone who can tune it for it to be a pen that I love writing with, because I just really love what it looks like. But one day, I'll probably, whenever I get to go to a pen show, which I still have never been to a pen show, I will probably take it with me and see if I can meet someone who can fix it for me. And then finally, I left the best for last because it's a really interesting pen. It is another vintage pen. This one is from the 40s and it is a Spors Crescent filler glass nibbed fountain pen. The writing experience is very similar to how a glass dip pen would be because the nib is glass. But it's a fountain pen, so you don't have to be dipping. It does dry out the ink pretty quickly, but pushing a little bit on the Crescent fill area helps it right away. And I love how much ink it puts down. It basically writes somewhere between a medium and a broad, maybe like a Japanese broad. And I love it. Again, awesome for long-term writing, extremely comfortable. It's small, very light, so I maybe wouldn't recommend it for someone with big hands, but at least for me, this is one of my absolute favorite pens to write with, just because of the glass nib. It's just so cool. I got this one also from Anderson Pens. They do that email blast with vintage pens all the time, and as soon as I saw that one, it was just like immediate purchase. I had to. And that is it. I hope I didn't miss any and then have to go back with weirdly odd sounding audio at the end of this, but that is the entirety of my fountain pens. As I mentioned, I will leave them all written down in the description below in case you want to check it out. I will leave links to whichever ones you can purchase. So if it doesn't have a link, it probably just means that it was a limited edition or it's a vintage, so you can't really get it as easily. But I will do my best to help you out in case you want to buy any of these. I still love fountain pens just as much as I did when I started collecting them, probably more, because now I'm more familiar with the experience of using them, and now I know exactly what I like when it comes to buying a new fountain pen. So actually I've noticed that as of lately I haven't bought as many fountain pens as I did in 2018. I mean, in 2018 I got 18, that's fitting, 18 fountain pens in 1 year. And now in 2019, we're already in May, so it's been 5 months, almost June by the time I'm filming this. And I've only gotten 4 pens this year. So there's definitely a difference in terms of speed of acquisition. I definitely feel like I know exactly what I want to hunt down, especially when it comes to colors and nib styles and sizes. I basically almost only get medium nibs or 1.5 and above stub nibs for calligraphy. However, they are getting more expensive. So I guess it evens out. Less pens that cost a little more. That's how it goes. I think that's basically how it goes for most people based on what I've heard. But that's everything I have for you today. Subscribe if you like this kind of content. I do basically use fountain pens in almost every video. If you're interested in getting more feedback about them, you will definitely get that on this channel. So I'll see you next week with another video and have a fantastic day. Bye!